We are going to go ahead and get started with Ava from WAHOSA with an acknowledgement of public lands.
Thank you very much. Washington WAHOSA and WCTSMA acknowledge that locations statewide are on the homelands of Native peoples who have lived in this region from time immemorial. Currently, there are 42 tribes, 35 of which are federally recognized, that share traditional homelands and waterways in what is now Washington state. Some of these are nations and confederacies that represent multiple tribes and bands. Our organizations express our deepest respect for and gratitude towards these original and current caretakers of the region. As academic and leadership organizations, we acknowledge our responsibility to establish and maintain relationships with these tribes and Native peoples in support of tribal sovereignty and the inclusion of their voices in teaching, leadership, and programming. We also pledge that these relationships will consist of mutual trust, respect, and reciprocity.
Thank you very much. Ava, Presidents, go ahead, take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today for the Diversity in Healthcare webinar. We are so glad you were all able to be here to hear from our amazing panelists regarding their experiences in health professions as they answer some of the questions submitted by members of WAHOSA and WCTSMA.
Diversity in healthcare is a topic of importance, especially as students such as yourself are considering the future more than ever. And this event is a great way to get some of your burning questions answered and to get an inside perspective of the importance and topics regarding diversity in healthcare.
All right, so now before we get started with the event and get going with the panel discussion, I would like to ask everyone a huge favor. If you can please change your name on the Zoom call to your first name, last initial, and the CTSO you are a member of, so that that would be either WAHOSA or WCTSMA. I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to do that now, and that would be amazing. It would be, again, your first name, last initial, and the CTSO you are with. Give you 10 seconds to do that.
And in case anybody's looking for how to change their name, if you hover over your screen where you're at, there's 3 little dots next to the mute button. You click those, or if you right click on your screen, there should be an option to rename yourself. And as people are renaming themselves, let's go ahead and start with some quick introductions, and then we'll get started with questions. Officers, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So to get us started, my name is Tessa Pierce. I'm the president of Washington WAHOSA this year, and I'm currently a senior at Newport High School in Newport, Washington, about an hour north of Spokane.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Evelyn Madrid Fierro. I am a senior at Kent Meridian High School, and I am your WCTSMA co-president.
Hi, everyone. My name is Via McConnell, and I am the other WCTSMA co-president alongside Evelyn, and I'm currently a senior at Camas High School, which is just on the other side of the river from Portland.
Hello, everyone. My name is Timothy Huang, and I am the president-elect of Washington WAHOSA, and I live in Vancouver, Washington, where I attend Mountain View High School.
Hi, I'm Hannah Lampkin. I'm the WCTSMA vice president, and I go to Mount Vernon High School.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ayushi Patwara. I am the Washington WAHOSA state secretary, and I go to Eastlake High School, which is in Sammamish, Washington.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Blakeney. I am the WCTSMA secretary, and I am a junior at Wenatchee High School.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bailey Workman. I am Washington WAHOSA's Region 1 Vice President, and I go to Meade High School in Spokane, Washington.
Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha Paez. I'm a Region 3 Student Liaison for WCTSMA, and I go to Ferndale High School.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fabian Prestialo. I'm a junior at Toppenish High School here in the Yakima Valley, and I represent Washington State WAHOSA as the Region 2 Vice President.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Weichelt. I am the WCTSMA historian, and I attend Monroe High School.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ava Phyllis, and I'm Washington HOSA's Region 4 Vice President, and I attend Annie Wright Upper School in Tacoma, Washington.
Hey everyone, my name is Elise Long and I'm your Region 2 Student Liaison and I attend Wenatchee High School here in Wenatchee and I'm a junior.
Hi everyone, my name is Ian McDevitt. I am Washington HOSA's Region 5 Vice President and I attend Squalicum High School up in Bellingham, Washington.
Hi everyone, my name is Zeke Miller. I'm the WCTSMA Region 1 Student Liaison and I am currently a junior at Mousercan High School.
Hi everyone, I'm Safia Ali. I'm the post-secondary vice president of Washington HOSA and I go to UW.
Right on, thank you very much, officers. We're gonna transition really quick into introducing our panelists.
First, Washington HOSA, WCTSMA, and Kaiser Permanente providers would like to thank Lake Stevens CTE Director Dan Teeter for helping to facilitate this event for the health science students of Washington State. Thank you, Dan.
And it is my pleasure to introduce to you our first panelist, Lenny Smith. Lenny was born in California and his father was in the US Army, so they moved about every 3 years. After graduating high school in 1983, he joined the US Army and spent 4 years as a laboratory technician. He was fortunate to have Fort Lewis as one of his duty stations and decided that the Pacific Northwest was where he would plant his roots. Lenny went into medicine because he had a desire to help people, and this is how he decided to do it. It also affords him a daily opportunity to work towards changing perceptions as they relate to the difficulties that he has had trying to move forward towards a more equitable future for all. Lenny loves what he does and would not change it. He enjoys watching people grow from children to adults and knowing that he had the privilege of helping them.
Hi guys, it is my pleasure to be introducing Jenny Garcia. This is Jenny. She has been a medical assistant for 18 years. She began her career working in an assisted living facility, supporting seniors in their everyday activities and helping them transition to a new way of life in the most respectful way possible. Working at this facility had inspired her to further her education. She then completed her phlebotomy certification course at the local community college and began her career with what was Group Health and now Kaiser Permanente. Wanting to further her education, she received her medical assistant certification and transitioned to that department, continuing to work for Kaiser Permanente to this day. The satisfaction she receives from providing quality care to her patients and making the everyday go smoothly as possible for her provider and coworkers is what makes her happy. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to introduce Adrienne Anderson, who is a registered nurse. Adrienne grew up with her mother and 2 siblings in Tacoma, Washington. Adrienne was in real estate until her mother was diagnosed with MS, and then she got her MA, advanced to her LPN, and finished her RN in March. Thank you so much for joining us, Adrienne.
I'm incredibly happy to introduce Timothy Whiteley to everyone. He is a medical doctor of a family practice, and he was born and grew up in Hong Kong from 1973 until 1991. His mother is Chinese and his father is English, and he also has an older sister. And he grew up in a bilingual household and is able to speak Cantonese. In 1991, he immigrated with his family. He immigrated with his family from Hong Kong to Seattle, where his grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins live. After college, he went to medical school at the University of Washington, and then residency training afterward for 3 years at Group Health on Capitol Hill in Seattle. Timothy's wife is a nurse, and they now have an 18-year-old son and currently live in Everett. Timothy has been a family doctor at Kaiser Permanente in Everett for 20 years. He cares for everyone from newborn babies all the way to great grandparents and also enjoys delivering babies.
It is my pleasure to introduce the next healthcare panelist joining us today. Her name is Elisa Chittister. She became a mother at 19 years of age with nothing else besides a high school education. She heard about Job Corps and decided to apply. She was later accepted and completed the NA program and then applied for the LVN program, where she was also accepted and completed it along with passing her board. As a new nurse in 1984, she applied to nursing homes and hospitals, but all of them told her she needed more experience. As of today, she has 35 years of nursing experience. Please welcome Elisa. Thank you for joining us today.
Awesome. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jen Barber. She has had the privilege of serving in the United States Navy as a female medicine doctor. She served 4 years on the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz and has visited many countries and saw a whole lot of ocean. She has practiced for 12 years and is currently at Kaiser Permanente in Everett. In her free time, she enjoys exercise by spinning or riding her bicycle, going snowboarding and paddleboarding. She picked the Navy because she was always near the water. Her and her wife have 4 dogs and 3 rabbits who just had 7 small bunnies. How cute. They like to go on trips to the beach in their RV and spend time camping. Her medical interests include sports medicine, women's health, and care of the LGBTQ community by helping transgender patients transition. She has wanted to be a doctor since she was 5 years old, and she has always said that her career in medicine has never felt like work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian. And last but certainly not least, I am proud to present Dr. Doria Pothen, who joined KPWA in 2018. Dr. Doria Pothen grew up in the United States during her early childhood, and then later in India. She completed her medical training at the Amrita School of Medicine in Kerala, India, and later completed her residency at the Cleveland Clinic in Akron, Ohio. Having the knowledge from both Western and Eastern cultures, Dr. Pothen now uses her experiences in order to connect with all her patients and providing the best care possible. She believes in accessible healthcare for all and looks forward to strengthening diversity and inclusion at Kaiser Permanente. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for that, guys. So we just wanted to give a quick thank you to all the other healthcare providers and participants for taking the time out of your day to attend today's meeting. We can't thank you guys enough for all the work you guys do, and we respect and appreciate everyone attending this meeting today. So thank you.
Awesome. I'd love to thank everybody for those wonderful introductions. And without further ado, we're going to start asking questions and talking to our panelists. So our first question is coming from Sydney Apakasival. Sorry, or somebody is reading her question, I believe.
Hello, is my audio okay? Can you hear me? Okay. So I was wondering if you knew what field in medicine you wanted to pursue, and if it ever changed over time.
So I guess I'll start. I think, well, no, not initially, because initially I think I wanted to be a doctor. Actually, I know I wanted to be a doctor, but I was working when I was working down in Seattle at Northwest Hospital, I was a phlebotomist. I was in school. I was going to school at Seattle U to get a degree in medical technology. So I spent a lot of time down in the emergency room and a lot of time with the doctors, and they were really pretty helpful. And they were more than happy to try to teach me as much as they could. But as I watched them, I noticed it just didn't seem to be the happiest group of people, and that didn't appeal to me. So I had to find something else. And I talked to my father, and he actually pointed me in the direction of a physician assistant. So I looked really hard in that, and I actually reached out to one and asked him if I could shadow him, and he let me shadow him. And I watched what he was doing, and he really just enjoyed what he did, and you could see that he was enjoying what he was doing, and the people enjoyed it. And I thought, you know what, I can do that. I can do that, and I probably would be better off doing that for myself. So that's what I chose to do. And even as I was going through school, trying to get ready for that, to get into PA school, I almost changed again, thinking that I wanted to be a nurse. But I'm glad that I didn't do that, because nursing is wonderful, and they're certainly great caregivers, and I'm a caregiver too, but in a different way. So that wouldn't have fit my personality as well. So yeah, I guess that's that answer. Hope that's a good enough.
Letty, Sydney, thank you so much for those answers, the question and the answer. We really appreciate it. Next, we're going to be hearing from one of our own, Hannah Lampkin.
Hi, thank you guys so much for coming. Where do you look for support, and is support often available in your profession as a person of color and or minority?
Hi guys, Jen, Dr. Barber here. I'll take this one. So I think when we're looking for support, and when you're a minority, when you're a person of color, you really have to find and look deep into companies or programs that talk about that outright. So when I was a Navy doctor, it was during the time of don't ask, don't tell. So I thought, well, that's great. I just won't talk about my personal life. And anybody who knows, if they've worked, you spend a lot of your time with your coworkers, and they do get to know you, and they become part of your family. As I got out of that, and obviously as don't ask, don't tell was repealed, I was able to become more open with who I was. And when I joined the aircraft carrier, I was an out lesbian, which was amazing. But that doesn't mean that perspectives changed, or that at times I didn't feel safe or noticed. But when I really came to my job at Kaiser, one of the things, because I had been in medicine now for a while, so I had an understanding, I had my feet on the ground, so to say. So I looked for a company that specifically mentioned diversity and specifically mentioned minority and LGBTQ people, because if you're outright with it, that's a good assumption. I think then you're backed up. So that became one of my leading criteria for finding a job. Is to look for the kind of company, the kind of people that I felt safe in, secure in, and I knew that I could be who I was. And after a couple of years of not having that in the Navy before the repeal, that definitely was something that was very, very important to me. So I think that when you're looking for it, it has to be on your radar, and asking for it and interacting with people. I know when I went early on and met with some of the Kaiser folks, I was not the only gay person in the room. So that felt really great. And that felt like that was the right place for me to be in, that I could be who I was and take care of my patients. And that it was going to be one of the first things that I say about me, not something that I hide.
Dr. Barber, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. That is very touching, and we're so glad to have heard your story. Would any other providers like to touch on that question by chance?
Actually, yeah, I'd like to touch on that one. That is a wonderful question, actually. So I've been doing this now for about 26 years, and before we were Kaiser, we were Group Health, and I think Group Health, I'll tell you, I enjoyed it there. I enjoyed the company. I truly did enjoy the company, but there was a time, and when I was the only African American provider here, and there is now too, but it felt I didn't know that I had really within the company a place where I could go and be supported. I was supported by my colleagues because, we do work together pretty much. We work together every day. We spend a lot of time together, almost as much time, if not more, than with our own families. So I didn't feel unsupported by them, but I didn't necessarily feel supported by group health company. And then we changed over to Kaiser, and that's a whole different animal. This company is I feel good here. I don't even know how to put it. I feel like anywhere that I go, pretty much, or anyone that I speak to, I can talk to about these issues. And it's not just because of what happened last year, right? It's because Kaiser is just that way. They say it, but then they do it, and that's really pretty cool and really pretty special, I think. And that I think that actually helped me to not feel like I wanted to retire. So that's a wonderful thing. So and of course I'm not just singing Kaiser's praises because this is where I work. It's what they do, and it's as an organization, and I really am. I'm very fortunate that I get to work there, I think. So there you have it.
I do agree with what Lenny said. Even before the George Floyd incident that happened last year, going through, because Kaiser's a big organization, and going through all the literature, all the websites that they have to connect with people, they had a diversity group that I joined, well over a year ago. And one of the things they do talk about, and they meet about, I guess, have topics about every quarter. And I get emails to participate in those, for people all across the Kaiser organization. So Kaiser does talk the talk and they walk that talk.
That's beautiful. Thank you both for sharing and touching on that. We're going to move on to our next question. We'll be hearing from Amy Weichelt.
Hi. So my question I'll be asking is, how has diversity changed throughout the years in the medical field? And has it changed for the better, or do you think it's changed for the worse?
Well, hi, I'm Mike, a family practitioner, and I'll speak from having the privilege of just observing over the past 20 years the healthcare staff, and I would say that there is, I would say that there has been some increase in diversity, but I got to say clearly not enough, and so I don't say that in a negative way, but that's one of the reasons why we're wanting to hold a session or participate in a session like this in order to strengthen the staff in our medical field, because a more diverse medical staff is a more effective medical staff. We can reach more people and do more good. And so we're hopeful to see more diversity.
So glad to hear. We'd love to see the change as well. Any other doctors like to touch on that, or providers touch on that?
Yeah, I just want to agree with Dr. Whiteley. Even though the amount of diversity hasn't quite, expanded as much as we would like to see over the years, the support to do something about it, I think that culture and that way of thinking has come leaps and bounds. and having that support from your employer, and even, I mean, especially one as large as a medical employer can be, makes all the difference. If you have that support behind you, this would have never happened. I've been in this field for 18 years, and this has never been an opportunity. So I think working in the past couple of years, having that support from anywhere from management to CEOs will make the difference. And I feel like that's where not just Kaiser, but kind of on a whole, that's where employers are heading, which will only make a difference.
Thank you, Jenny. Any other words?
Yeah, I want to add on. I want to add on to what Jenny said about this never being an option, and I want to kind of put in for our hopes for you as future, potential future healthcare providers. And Lenny and I talk about this a lot. Is that it didn't happen, and Jenny mentioned it didn't happen when we were younger, but the mere fact that we're having this conversation now and you guys are in high school, we hold a lot of hope for you and for your generation that this was an option, that you were able to speak and to hear from people who otherwise remained, under the radar or experienced discrimination or prejudice, or had kind of sly, passive aggressive, hateful comments passed our way. And so I would have never had that in high school. And so the fact that you guys are getting this, and we talk about it a lot, is we're so hopeful for you guys, and to have our kind of faith in you that you're already discussing this and that you have an action plan and that you're committed to this means the difference to us.
Yes, well, thank you. You guys play a huge role in telling us about your guys' stories and gives us hope to be that change and the hope you have within us. Next, we're going to be hearing from Ayushi.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone here and for all the panelists for sharing their stories. It really means a lot to all of us, especially in these times. And so my question for all of you is, when you work in healthcare, and if there's a patient who refuses or is hesitant to take your care based on culture, race, sexuality, or gender, what actions would you take?
I'll try to take this one. Thanks, Ayushi, for your question. It's a very tough situation when someone kind of needs care and is refusing care, because we're, by design, our whole goal or mission is to serve someone who needs that care. And it's one of those situations that happen, and hopefully it'll be very, very extremely rare or non-existent by the time you guys get to this point. But when it does, you kind of have to not take it personally as much as it is personal, and try to remain professional. And, sometimes it's best to direct that care to someone else if they are available. And if not, explain, hey, I'm the one who's available to help take care of you. And I'm willing to, do whatever is needed. But, patients are within their rights to refuse care in such a situation. And you can't blame yourself or feel ashamed for being, different in any way. I think over time, one of the things that I've seen, at least, I have a lot of family in healthcare. And one of the things that I'm hearing, at least with regards to just how things have changed over time, is that more and more people have come to respect those of us that are from different cultures, because they know that we bring a unique perspective. And the hope is that there's still going to be more of that coming in the future. And then when these situations do arise, never to blame yourself or feel bad or ashamed in any way. You should be proud of who you are and what your roots, what you represent in every way, shape, and form.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that response. And it is so true to staying true to yourself and who you are as a person. And you can only control what's within you. So thank you so much. Would any other providers like to touch on that?
I'll talk about it.
Wait a minute, I've only been refused by 6. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
You're good to go.
Okay. I had a situation where there's not so much as the person or the color of their skin, but what title they held. There's, there are some biases that people have when a provider is available, but they think they should only be seen by a doctor. And we have very qualified physician assistants, nurse practitioners, and other healthcare providers to help people. And it was a lady that wanted to see a dermatologist, but we didn't have a dermatologist available, which is the MD. We had the nurse practitioner. Well, this nurse practitioner had her PhD. So in essence, she was a doctor, but she still had on to that nurse practitioner, that RN practitioner. And you just have to educate the public on she's well qualified to handle any need that they may have. So sometimes the biases may not be in color, but in position.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, because it definitely shows that there's so much more to a person than just the title that they hold. So thank you for that. Next, we're going to be hearing from Ava.
Hi, and thank you all so much for meeting with us and sharing your advice and wisdom. My question for you is, how has discrimination from upper management impacted your career as a health professional, and how did you respond to it?
I have a story for this one, Ava. Thanks for your question. When I first got into residency in 2014, I did my training in Ohio, and one of the first things that I was told was your last name. So my last name at that time was Naravelli. And they said, well, your last name sounds really complicated, so just tell the patients your first name, like Dr. Doria instead of Dr. Naravelli. And my knee-jerk response was just sort of shock, like why do I have to introduce myself by my first name? And I had a couple of other colleagues with ethnic last names as well that were supposedly hard to pronounce. But I thought about it for a minute, and I said, no, thank you. I'm going to go with my last name, and I'll teach my patients how to say it. And they kept insisting and pushing for the first name, and tried to make it sound like I was being a little difficult. But I stood true to, again, the whole point. I mean, I can teach people how to say my name. And my name is a big part of my identity and who I am. And I respectfully just declined that suggestion. And I said, no, I think we can make it work. And we did. Nobody had any trouble saying my name after I told them how to pronounce it. And so sometimes it's, even if it seems like a polite suggestion, I think if there's someone telling you to do something differently and change something about you, especially something as important as your name, or hide a certain part of your identity, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's appropriate. And so my advice to all of you is, again, just, it goes back to, your core identity, and you should just be proud of it, own it, and say, well, this is who I am. And people will respect you more for it.
Wow, thank you. That was amazing. I really appreciated the story. Would any other providers like to add on to that?
I can add another story. I think there's, when I hear the phrase upper management, that hits for the Navy, because so much of it is a hierarchy. And so myself and the psychologist at the time on the carrier were running a transgender support group for our transgender sailors when it was not okay to be transgender. So it was before the reversal of the reversal, right? So a little further back. And what I did, and I just think it's with what Dr. Pothen said too. Doria said it as well. With I stood by it because I felt like I was coming through a place of compassion and love and justice. And I felt very good sitting into that and allowing the heat to be put on me to advance human decency and humanity for a group that was not being acknowledged. So I think the sitting in it, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And if you're staying true to who you are, your identity, your core, your belief system, then that speaks for itself.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barber. Both of those stories, so touching.
I think I'm muted. I'm not muted. So
Yes.
I'd like to touch that one too, because I saw this question and it's a hard one, actually. So I've been here 26 years and I've applied for multiple positions that I haven't gotten. And certainly some of those positions I was better qualified than the people that got them. There's no doubt about it. Now I don't know. Could I say it was because I'm Black I didn't get those positions? No, but did that play a role? I think probably so. Now, when you talk about systemic racism, though, it's so subtle that it's incredibly hard to prove. So I couldn't say, okay, this I should have gotten this job and I didn't get it because I was Black, right? Because, well, I can't prove it, right? And anyways, I wouldn't do that because that's not the right way for me to go for myself, right? So what I did or what I do is I realized that my power is not in my title. My power is in my influence. So as long as I can influence people, I can lead from wherever I am in the organization. And that's what I've done for quite some time. And I think people recognize that now. And it took me a long time to come to that realization, but I'm glad that I did, because otherwise I would have just been angry pretty much my whole career, right? And I would have not gotten anywhere. So yeah, it's happening. It happens. There's no doubt about it. It's just what you do with it. So you've got to take something not necessarily good and make good out of it. And have patience and faith, and know that, as Doria and Jen say, you have to be true to yourself, true to your principles. You be who you are, and you do the right things, and it will always work out in the long run. I truly believe that, and right now, I can tell you my career has never been better, never. So it's actually maybe turned out that those rejections, I'll call them, were some of the best things that could have happened to me. Of course, at the time, it didn't feel like that. But as I look back and I look at where I am now, I'm a much better person than I probably would have been had I gotten those positions, because I would not have had to look so deep inside of myself to figure out how to get where I wanted to be and how to help others to get there too. So.
Thank you. If there are no other words, we are going to be hearing from Timothy next.
Hello, thank you so much for being here today. So this next question is going to kind of tie into some of the other questions that we've had today. How would you like to see diversity in healthcare improve?
I think I'd like to help with this one. I'd like to see more diverse, more people of color, of different nationalities. There are certain things that everybody can bring to the table. And the more diverse population we have in healthcare, the better off we can care for our patients.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. You know, I think that sometimes there can be some people misunderstand that striving for diversity thought of as a kind of a justice, and it is a justice thing, but it's not just that. We truly believe that we practice more effective medicine. We're better doctors, better team for being diverse. There are people and cultures that if you have just a homogeneous staff, that you cannot reach, you cannot be effective in helping, and we're worse off for it. So it's essential that we become diverse, or else we will be poorer for it. So that's my take.
Yeah, it's going back to the other question. If you have patients of different cultural backgrounds that are, refusing care for whatever reasons, having that multicultural, just diverse staff to shed a little light on some subjects for us, who are trying to help, it makes all the difference, and it gives a personal touch and understanding. And I thoroughly believe education is key. And when you have somebody living that culture and it is their life, it just enriches and makes for better patient care all around, 100%.
Thank you, guys. Those are great responses. Next, we are going to hear from Via McConnell.
All right. So my question for you guys is, how have the recent social justice movements during the pandemic impacted the treatment that you have received from patients?
Okay, so I'll start on this one. Actually, it's quite interesting because it's gone two ways. So I have patients that have come in to me and have actually apologized, because they saw what happened to George Floyd, and it was such an ugly thing, and it opened so many people's eyes to just the ugliness that's happening out there. It's not new. It's not like we haven't been telling folks. It's just that people haven't been seeing it. So that was in their face. They saw it, and they took it to heart. I had another patient come to me, and she said to me, literally, "I am sick of hearing about Black Lives Matter. All lives matter." And I could have probably been really pissed off with that one, but I wasn't. It didn't really, I don't know, maybe I was in a good mood that day or something, or I was just in the right place. But I said to her, I agree with you that all lives matter. There's no doubt about it, but there's a problem here, right? And we need to address it. So yes, Black Lives Matter, and right now they matter quite a lot, actually, because if we don't recognize what's happening, then all lives do not matter, right? She just looked at me kind of dumbfounded, and then I went on and took care of her. I wasn't offended by her, and I actually thanked her because that was that's quite a brave thing to do. If you think about it, she was a white lady, so I'm a professional, but you don't know how I'm going to react to something like that, because let me tell you, when I saw what happened to George Floyd, I was not a happy camper. So had she done that maybe a week sooner or a week earlier, my reaction might have been a whole lot different. So she took a chance, and I could at least respect her for that. And I didn't feel like And maybe I was just being pie in the sky, but I didn't feel like she was being necessarily disrespectful. And she opened the door for me to have the discussion with her and perhaps change her perspective. So, I actually thanked her at the end of the visit, which and I wasn't even being passive aggressive or anything. It was just thank you, and we went about our way. And she's come back to see me multiple times. So I think probably it ended up being a really good interaction.
That speaks so much volume. Thank you so much. And would any other providers like to add?
These times of recognition of just the level of injustice and systemic racism and overt racism and all the mistreatments really to practically any minority community have been highlighted, especially in this last year when people were kind of in their, I guess, like feeling their worst and feeling isolated and more angry and stuff. And I think one of the things that I've experienced in the last year is that I didn't know if I would be able to handle with more empathy, more compassion, but I found that you will have that capacity when you recognize that there's a deep misunderstanding and you're willing to rectify it, to at least do your part to do it. So when I had people of color, whether they were African American or not, come in, I would actually ask them, hey, with everything that's been going on, are you okay? And they would open up about their experiences. And it was really, really enriching to hear just how much they've gone through in their own lives and how they've adjusted and how they get by. And I think that people, sometimes even in the worst of times, although sometimes people can be really mean and it brings out the worst, I've seen a lot of people show their best versions of themselves. And then you come to respect the people you take care of, who show that compassion back to you.
Thank you so much. Next, we are going to be hearing from Tessa.
So thank you again to all of our panelists for joining us this evening. The next question we have for you is, how do you stay professional when you're faced with adversity in the workplace?
All right. Doria's up. You want to talk, Doria?
You go ahead, Lenny, and then I'll talk.
Okay. Well, we pretty much said it a little bit. You got to just stay true to yourself, mostly, and to your principles. But truly for me, I was taught that my behavior doesn't just reflect on me. My behavior also reflects on other Black males, right? So if I misbehave with someone, then the next time they come across another Black male, they're not going to be expecting that. They may expect a whole different, expect that a similar behaviors, I guess. So that I can't do that, if you understand what I mean. I have to represent the best that I can for my people, right? And for myself, and for all of those people that came before me, so that I can sit here today and talk to you. I have no other choice but to behave the right way, because people died so that I could be here. It's just that simple for me. So it's that simple, and it's that deep. It's just what has to happen. I don't have any other option but to behave appropriately in maybe some of the ugliest situations you can imagine. Actually, I have no other choice.
Thank you, Lenny. And Doria?
Yeah, so what I was going to add to what Lenny said is you represent your community and the people you work for, your company, when you're taking care of someone. You've got to be like it's very hard sometimes, especially in the first part of your career, to not take things personally, you know. And I used to wonder, how am I going to deal with that? And then I realized it's because it's bigger than you. It's bigger. What you're doing is bigger than how this little interaction between you and one other person is going on in the room. And as you realize that and understand that maybe that adverse situation or that difficult encounter is probably fueled by someone who's vulnerable, who's hurting, and who really needs help, you kind of you find it within you to just, you know, listen and say, you know, validate and acknowledge that person, and then try to kind of, you know, take it from there, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to add to that?
I can also talk to that. Sometimes you have people that are just combative, and it's not so much against me being a person of color, other than trying to be professional in such a difficult situation. Because most people that I encounter here at work, I'm going to see within the next week, 2, or month. So I have to be the one that has to be professional. I try not to, you know, take it on personally and just act professionally. I will always say, you know, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Can I get you anything else before you go? Has everything that you needed, you know, been addressed before you go? So they can see that I'm not taking it personally, even though they gave it out that way. Definitely kill them with kindness. And they do come back with a different attitude when you see them the next time.
Beautiful. Thank you. Now we are going to hear from Hannah again.
Yes, I'm going to be reading a question from one of our members, Mia. What would you say to those that are struggling to move forward, whether it's for resources or opportunities? How would you encourage them to keep moving forward?
I'll take that one, at least the first part. So when I first hear that question, I just think, because you have to keep going. There's no other option, you know. And I think in healthcare, a lot of it is, it feels like a calling, right? It feels like a purpose, a service. And so you can't picture yourself, you know, doing anything else. Now, if that changes in roles or fields or clinical or academic or whatever that is, that there's a way. And it takes me back to college. When I was pre-med, my counselor said to me, well, what happens if you don't get into medical school? What's your backup plan? And I said, there's no backup plan, I'm getting in. And so I approached it, and most of the things in my life with, but that's how it is, because I know that to my core, I know that to my being. This is where I feel pulled and called. So whatever I need to do to make that happen, I'm going to do. And that comes on, you know, I do want to encourage, you know, resources, opportunities, for as faulted as it is. I do thank the military and the Navy for paying my medical education. And so a recruiter came in, you know, around those pre-med times and said, you can pay for medical school in time or money. And I come from an electrician and a medical biller parents. And so I said, time looks pretty good. And it's short time and it builds resiliency. And even during the toughest times, you can always kind of find that silver lining. And one of my favorite quotes is, you never know what seeds are planted. So every experience that you're going through, every hardship, every, door shut in your face, just really builds and adds to your character. So we do it because there's no other choice.
And it makes you who you are. So thank you for touching on that, Dr. Barber. Would anybody else like to add to that?
I kind of echo what Jen just said. When you choose this this calling, or it chooses you sometimes, there is no plan B. You just keep going. My specific case was I trained outside of the U.S. and during the time that I was trying to get into residency, it was really difficult for foreign medical graduates to get in. It was pretty competitive. Also, you had to be, you had to show that you had what it took to get into a residency program. And I remember in some of my interviews, it seemed to be a negative that I didn't train in the United States. And the program that accepted me found that to be a positive. And they said, well, your experiences in another culture will add to your experiences here. And kind of, and they're the ones that highlighted that point when they heard about, how I grew up and where I grew up and why I trained in India. And so I'm so grateful that someone was able to see that there was that potential. And I have to say, you just keep pushing. There will be many doors that shut in front of you. And I remember specifically, how many shut in front of me. And even when I was losing hope, I was just like, I'm just going to keep pushing it because there's no plan B for me, And so you'll find that when you are deeply passionate about what you love, what you want to do, and your dream job, your forever job, you may have your doubts here and there, but deep down you'll know what you want to do, and you'll get there, no matter the hurdles.
Thank you so much. I saw another voice or mic pop off. Did somebody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to just add to what the other panelists have said. Know that there's multiple paths to getting into medicine. You don't have to feel like hello?
Quick question. Can you guys turn the camera or the computer so it's facing you a little more? I think the microphone can pick you up a little bit better.
Oh, perfect. Okay, is that better? Okay, super. I wanted to emphasize there's more than one path to get into medicine. And, a lot of us may have come straight through high school and college and then into medical school and so on. But I also know of a lot of providers who had alternate pathways, had other careers, geologists, maybe started out as a medical assistant or as a nurse. And so things can come up, but to just keep in mind that that opportunity is not lost. If you want to keep going, you can always come back to that pathway. If you want to be a physician assistant or a doctor, keep going for it. There's no single pathway.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to hear from Lindsay.
Hi, I just want to say all of your guys' stories are really inspiring. And the question I'm going to be asking is, what advice would you give to minorities who want to become healthcare professionals?
Boy, just do it. Just do it. I don't know that I have much better advice than that. If that's what's in your heart, then follow it and do it. As you can see, these guys both, that last question actually follows. This follows that last question really well. It's all in the drive. If it's what you want, then make it happen. And you can make it happen. If it's what you want, I know that sounds fairly simple, and it's not that simple, but that's where it starts. It starts with you. You have to want it.
And I would just say to use your differences to your advantage. Use it to stand out. Use it to bring something to the table that nobody else can. And I'll tell you, it'll work wonders, and it'll maybe stick in the mind of a patient for years, and have influence. So just use it to your advantage. Use your strengths, your differences, and it'll make you all the better.
I've had talks with my children as they were growing up. What do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? And I was telling my daughter, and she, I don't know what I wanted to do. So I let her know since I've been a nurse, there has never been a time that if I didn't want to work, I didn't have to work. But, in downturns of the economy or the upswing of economies, I always had that to fall on to take care of myself. So one out of my 3 daughters became a nurse, and now she's director of nursing at her own clinic. So she is following in her mother's footsteps. And I, especially when, like the pandemic happened, a lot of people in hospitality and restaurants, service provider, we are also a service provider, but everybody's going to get sick. Not everybody needs to go to restaurants. I'm not knocking restaurants, but somewhere down the line, somebody's going to need you. Healthcare is a great field.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to touch on that one?
Yeah, there are many pathways you can take. You can start out going to school for 3 months or 6 months to be a phlebotomist or a CNA. Work your way up to become an MA or an LPN or an RN. There are many steps you can take if you can't just jump into nursing school for 2 years or 4 years. You can start out at a 3-month, a quarter class to be a phlebotomist or a CNA. You can go up to a 9-month to be an MA. You can jump in there for 2 years to 4 years to be an RN. There are many pathways you can take to get into the health field.
Thank you, Adrian. All right, our last question, we're going to be hearing from Evelyn.
Thanks, Elise. And thank you so much for all your guys' answers. It's been amazing hearing you guys and being able to have this discussion with you guys, and just this opportunity is amazing. My question for you guys is, what can anyone or what can we as students do as individuals to help support diversity in healthcare in the health and medical field?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is that to be curious with not just where you come from, your perspective, but to get to know the people around you, your patients, your coworkers, your colleagues, and to be curious about where they come from, the culture they've come from, their experiences, because much like Dr. Whiteley said a while ago, is that we're all better for it. So ask. I think all of us have been genuinely happy and surprised, and when somebody's actually asked about us, what's that like? How are you? What was that like for you? So do.
Jen, I think we lost you. Sorry about that. At least we lost you. You might be muted.
It was really meaningful and it was deep.
I
It's
know,
on
it looked like
Oprah's 10 favorite things. This little snippet is gonna, guys, I'm going viral.
You're kind of crazy, you know that.
I do. What I was saying was, if you guys didn't hear it, what I was saying was being curious. Always be curious. Ask about others. Ask where they come from. It adds to yourself too.
Yeah, same thing. Just keep the conversation going. I think all of us who have been around for a while, we see things come in waves and go, and interest peaks and interest falls. Don't let it fall. Just keep talking. Just keep conversations going, especially with people who may not have your same point of view. That's where you guys learn. That's where you guys connect. Don't let it fade. Just keep that conversation going.
Thanks, Jenny. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Thank you guys for the wonderful questions and all the wonderful answers. We really enjoyed hearing your stories. Thank you for tonight. We really appreciate it. I'm going to hand it off to Via now. Thank you.
Like Elise said, thank you guys so much for answering all those questions and for your incredibly insightful and touching responses. It's been truly a once in a lifetime experience hearing from each and every one of you and your personal stories and how you've dealt with diversity and advice for us. We all greatly appreciate it. And with that being said, we are going to move on to a short Q&A portion of this webinar. It is only going to be able to last about 5 minutes because we have run a little over time. So students, I'm talking to you. What you're going to do is, if you have any questions that may have been brought up throughout the call or questions you had coming into the call, drop them in the chat. And our panelists are going to keep an eye on the chat and answer any and every, or just any question they see that they feel like they can answer appropriately. And again, this will only last about 5 minutes because we're running a little low on time. So with that being said, go ahead and drop your questions in the chat.
You learn to stand up for yourself. So question came in, how do you learn to stand up for yourself? That's a hard one, actually, because it's sometimes it's an incredibly hard thing to do. But there are times when I know that I should have stood up for myself and I didn't, and it doesn't feel good. And after that has happened more than once, I figured out that I needed to do something different because I didn't like walking away not feeling good. So just take the leap of faith, because I think like Doria said, in the end, people will respect you more for standing up for yourself than not. Actually, I'm pretty certain they will.
I was looking at that question about being a little more introverted. I don't know if any of the colleagues I have here would consider me an introvert, but I started with group health when I was 18, 19 years old, and the youngest, anywhere that we could see, and never really had kind of was in a field where I had to deal with the public the way you have to in the medical field. So yeah, you can absolutely 100% get a job in the medical field if you're an introvert. You can do anything from research to, if you want to step out of that box and get into a clinic, get into a hospital. I mean, there's so many different options. And if you want to just kind of push yourself, I think it took me a couple of years to get comfortable with being able to talk to anybody. But it's all based on your own comfort level. And there's going to be a position for you wherever you choose. And that won't hold you back. It won't hold you back.
This is about that question with the when is it appropriate to speak up and when not to. Sometimes it's your knee-jerk reaction is going to be to respond to something in the heat of the moment. And rather than doing that, just take a few seconds, pause, and then try to think of it from a broader perspective. It takes practice, and you will learn that throughout your professional career, and that includes your schooling as well, because you will encounter different scenarios, you'll witness different scenarios, and you'll start putting yourself in hypothetical scenarios and start, developing your own strategies. I mean, there will certainly be times where you're blindsided, but over time you will develop the capacity to handle everything in a professional and calm manner without escalating any situations.
I think I'm going to take real quick. I saw, kind of the struggles of quarantine and about, grade slipping, or maybe you did bad on a test, or you got a bad grade. And I just want you to remember that you're not defined by a number on a test. I think I got a C in calculus, and I stand 110% beside that C, because I'm surprised I knew 75% of it. So I'm on the upside. So don't be defined by where you fail, right? Where you feel like you fail, where you've beaten yourself up. You are unique and we need you. I mean, the way to have more diversity is to have everybody in their unique experiences. So don't let one test, don't let one class, don't let two classes, don't let a semester, don't let that define your success in your future, because it doesn't. The best doctors, you don't look at me and see what I got on a physics final. That doesn't matter in the long run. So keep your eyes on the big picture.
So, well,
All right. Sorry.
We've been itching to sort of bring this up. Is we would love as a group to host, if anybody is interested in spending a day with us, just kind of seeing what we're doing, Lenny or myself or Elisa, or Kenny or Ken, we'd love to host somebody or host students, and Doria.
Well, we don't have to.
Awesome. Thank you guys. That's a great offer too. So obviously we weren't able to get to every question that was put in the chat. However, we have been writing them down for a possible future webinar we are hoping to do. And with that being said, again, thank you guys so much for answering these questions and posing these amazing opportunities for us. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it on to Hannah Lampkin to help close us out.
Yes, thank you guys so much for all the great questions. Thank you to all of our panelists for taking the time to attend our webinar and answer our questions. Your time and stories are very greatly appreciated. I know I enjoyed all of them, so thank you guys so much. And on the count of 3, we would like everyone to use the chat to show our panelists how much we appreciate them and sharing their stories, experiences, and being vulnerable with us today. So 1, 2, 3, let's make the chat go loud.
I mean, you can see the chat right now. It's just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, which just serves to show that today's event was such an amazing success, and hearing from all of the different panelists about their unique experiences and seeing how we as student leaders and members of WCTSO organizations can really have an impact in our future, and taking your life lessons with us will really go a long way. And I want to thank all of the students here from WCTSMA and WAHOSA for attending and submitting your questions questions and staying engaged throughout the entire conversation. And I want to thank everyone once again for hosting this and for having such a great conversation and sharing your experiences with us. And with that, thank you all for coming, and we really enjoyed this experience with you all today.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsten. That was great.